I get a lot of the same questions over and over again from people either buying their first house or relocating to Southern California. In this video, we're going to answer some of those questions. So let's get into it. Because I go through this process so often, I can easily forget how overwhelming it can be for a home buyer. So I've taken some of the most common questions I get answered and put them together in a simple Q&A. But before I jump in, I'm Crystal Joslin with the Joslin Team here at Keller Williams Carlsbad, and I can help you buy or sell in San Diego or Southern California communities. The first common question is, how do you get started? The first step in this process is to schedule an introduction call. Most likely will happen over a phone call or over Zoom or in person. Here are a few things that we are trying to accomplish on that initial call. We want to get to know each other a little bit because the relationship you have with your agent is one where you will likely talk on a daily basis. You'll want to make sure that he or she is someone you enjoy talking to. We'll take a few minutes and just talk a little bit and make sure that we are the right team for you. I will also need to ask some questions because I want to be crystal clear about exactly what your wants and needs are for your next home. Is there an area that you want to be in? Do you need to be close to a certain job or in a specific school district? Once we identify the areas that you want to be in, it's a lot easier to find and narrow your home search. Next, I'm going to jump into the MLS and set up a search right there with you on the call. We will put in all the criteria and see what's available. Once we get that filled out, and you'll start getting daily email notifications of every property that matches that specific home search. The next thing we're trying to accomplish on the call is financing. If you need to get financing, I will set up an introduction to our local lenders so that you can get started. That's the last thing that will need to happen before we actually start looking at houses. We want to make certain we are showing you the best homes within your budget that you're comfortable with so that when you do find a house, you'll be ready to write that offer. The second question I get is, when do we start looking at houses? Typically, before you even contact me, you would have been looking at houses online, maybe going to open houses in person, but you really do need that pre-approval letter in hand. The third question I get is, how much money do I need for a down payment? I'm actually surprised by the amount of people that still believe that you have to have 20% down to buy a house. You definitely don't need 20% down. As far as how much you do need for your down payment, it's going to depend on several factors that your lender will discuss with you. This is why it's important to have that conversation with the local lender. Once you connect with them and provide the paperwork they request, the lender will be able to show you all of your different options. Question number 4, how long does this process take? Some of this will depend on your particular situation, but let me tell you about what I typically see. Sometimes I'll get calls from buyers that are 6 months to a year away from buying, and that's fine. It's good to be prepared. If you call me though and you're ready to move now, here's how the timeline goes. We're going to have that initial call set up where we get acquainted. I build out your home search and I get a clear picture of exactly what you're looking for. From there, we're going to make the introduction to the lender and we're going to get the pre-approval process going. If you are able to get the lender all the documents that they need, we could really have the pre-approval done within just a day or two. From there, we will have a second meeting, and this is more of a buyer's consultation where you get a clear picture about what to expect throughout the whole process. Then we're ready to go out and start looking at houses. In my experience, it doesn't take very long to find a house that you like. For those of you that are out-of-town buyers, I can do virtual showings and FaceTime you and provide a detailed video walkthrough of the house and scan the neighborhood to really give you a good feel of what it's like. I know that may sound scary, a little scary for some of you, but I've had clients that move from out of state or out of area and they get an offer accepted on a house but couldn't actually put their eyes on it until we were in escrow. Once we identify the house and submit the offer and the offer gets accepted, there's a process that we have to go through to get you to the closing table. First, we will go through the home inspection process. Here in this market, we can usually shorten that time frame to about 7 to 10 days. From there, you'll typically get the house appraised, and the appraisal is actually for the lender. This is so that the lender knows exactly how much the house is worth and they aren't lending on more than it's worth. Your inspection and the appraisal are the only two things that you have to pay for up front. You are free to use any inspector that you want. However, if you use the inspector that I've worked with, he charges anywhere between $400 to $600 depending on the size of the house. Once we get through the main inspection and the appraisal, there may be some other inspections that I'm coordinating in the background, but your primary focus from that point will be to get your final loan approval. You'll be working really closely with the lender to get through that process and get your final loan approval. Lastly, you sign loan docs and you do your final walkthrough. Then, when the property records, which is usually on the closing date, you get the keys and celebrate. With all that being said, if you call me when you're ready to move, from the time we have our first conversation to closing, I would say it's probably about 60 days. And from the time you sign the contract until closing, it's more like 30 days. The last question is, do I need to get pre-approved before we start looking at houses? The answer is 100% yes. Of course, you can look at houses online and go to open houses whenever you want. But as far as making appointments and asking people to leave their house, we will want to position you with this pre-approval in hand. So that's it. These are some of the most common questions I get on a regular basis. If you have any specific questions that I didn't answer here, feel free to reach out to me directly, and I look forward to connecting with you soon. Bye.